Is it too late now to say sorry? Apologizing can be hard, even for adults, whether you decide to be the bigger person or at fault altogether. It's important that when saying I'm sorry, that there's true sincerity behind it. Here to share how to apologize like a grown-up is editor-in-chief for The Candidly. We have Audy Metcalf. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on. And Audy, what's the first tip you have for us to apologize like an adult?
I feel like the first thing that really matters is understanding that the reason that they're hurt doesn't have to be a reason that you would also need an apology for. So it could be something tiny. It could be that you agreed to watch, Game of Thrones again together and they went and watched it on their own. And you feel slighted by it. And it's totally valid, even if it's a tiny thing. And I think we often will think, well, I wouldn't be hurt by that. Why could you possibly need an apology for it?
Right.
So I think that's a huge thing to think about, is making sure that just because they have a different feeling about something doesn't mean that it's any less valid or that they don't need an apology for it.
Yeah, I like that you pointed that out. And when apologizing, why is it important to show remorse when doing so?
I learned this phrase in therapy actually called felt emotion. And it's such a great phrase because I think people are very attuned to other people's tone, if they seem sincere. It's sort of not enough to say the words, I'm sorry. I think we have to feel it. And I think it's on us to make sure that that felt emotion is there so that someone can feel like, oh, this thing actually has meaning behind it. It isn't just you saying the words because you know that you have to. And I think that phrase felt emotion is something, it really resonated with me. And it made a lot of sense because it can't be something that you're just sort of doing to go through the motions, because then it's kind of like, don't even do it,
Right. Don't just do it just to do it. And you want to make sure you have that
Right.
sincerity behind it. And I wanted to ask your final tip to truly apologize like an adult.
Well, this is almost the most obvious, which is that the apology has to include some kind of changed behavior. If you notice that you're apologizing for the same thing over and over, it almost means that something isn't registering. And so the apology really, it needs to sort of be accompanied by thinking about what this person needs, whether it's your friend or your child or your partner. And that changed behavior, I think, says a lot, which tells the person you love them. It says that I see you and I see your needs and I think of them as valid, and my behavior is really reflecting that.
Yeah, I think that's so key. And what would be your response to, I feel like one apologies that I've heard before is when people say, I'm sorry you feel that way. Is that a true, sincere apology, or does that need to do a little bit more retweaking?
Yeah, that's about the worst thing you can ever feel, because what they're saying is that they're apologizing for your behavior, and that's not an apology. A true apology, and I feel like I can speak about this because I basically didn't apologize to anyone for the first 35 years of my life. And I learned to as an adult. And I think that when we say, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, it's still a way to release ourselves of responsibility.
Yeah.
And so now that's the worst possible way you can do it. You gotta take that ownership and take it on yourself, even though it feels very vulnerable and hard.
Yeah, I think that's so key. Audy, thank you so much for joining us, and your adorable dog. I had to point that out because they are the cutest. And for more tips, you can visit The Candidly on Instagram.